Let's call the meeting to order. We'll have the invocation by Councilmember Chris Smith and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Vince Maggio. You please stand.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for all the blessings that you have given us. Lord, we pray for all of our first responders and city employees who are out and working today, and we pray that you will be with them. Lord, we pray that you will be with our country over the next few weeks as we start to transition into a new government. And Lord, we pray that you will be with each and every one of us in this chamber today. Lord, we thank you for this season, and let us not forget the reason for this season is you. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
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 Please follow me with saying the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Montgomery?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Hammonds?
Here.
Mr. Darby?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Free?
Here.
Mr. Maggio?
Here.
All present. Council, in accordance with Louisiana open meetings laws and the adopted Bossier City Council meeting rules resolution, the City Council asks for order and decorum at our meetings. Please silence your cell phones. Anyone wishing to address the council on any agenda items may approach and state their names and address for the record and shall be permitted 3 minutes to make their comments on the particular item that's up for discussion, with up to 4 speakers per side. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who shall become boisterous while addressing the council, shall be forthwith by the President Pro Tem barred from further audience before the council, unless permission to continue be granted by a majority vote of the council. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. No question shall be asked a council person or the mayor except through the meeting chair. All other audience members are asked to observe the meeting quietly. City Council has appointed the city marshals as the sergeant at arms, and they have been instructed to maintain decorum and ask anyone in violation to step out of the meeting.
I got an announcement too, to remind everyone about the meeting change on December 31st to January 2nd at 1 p.m. Now y'all gotta call me and remind me, okay?
1 p.m.
Recognition of guest, Stacy Brown. Hello, Stacy.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Stacy Brown, President of Shreveport-Bossier Convention and Tourist Bureau, otherwise known as Visit Shreveport-Bossier. Having trouble remembering our own change name in our name. President Williams, Mayor, Council, I appreciate you allowing me to come before you today to give you a little update on tourism and sports and what's happening in our community. We really appreciate all of your appointees to the Sports Commission Board, Councilman Free, as well as Mary Ward. Did I see Mary? Mary's not here. As a new appointee on our board, so we appreciate them. Council, Mayor, and staff of Bossier City, we appreciate all that you do all year long to work with us to make this a better place for people to visit, in virtue of you making it a better place for people to live. That also makes it a place that people want to come and visit and spend money. So I've got a brief PowerPoint just to hit some of the highlights here. So we do obviously bring in a number of events throughout the year, meetings, conventions, as well as sporting events. These are some of the major ones that have hit more than $1 million in economic impact, or ones that we've spent a significant amount of time and resources on to present to our community. So you'll notice that a number of these are multi-year as we go into the next slide for next year. On the meetings and convention side, year-to-date through October, we had booked 86 groups for a value of $24 million. In addition to that, another 32 groups that had a value of $5.8 million there. Also on the sports side, we had, again, million plus down on the bottom there, 73 events with a value of $39 million to our community. As we go into the next slide, you'll notice some of the names are the same. So these are multi-year contracts that we do. For one thing, it saves us money because once we've had the event, we've learned, we've sometimes purchased some supplies to make it better for the following year, and we're able to present it at a better value to our community. Also, once we know when people come to our community, they love it and they want to come back. So that builds attendance for future years as well. You'll see we have bookings. These are just a few of the ones for 25 and 26, but we have bookings out until 2031. This is all partnering with the community that we're able to move forward on all these initiatives. These are some major marketing initiatives. So we do a lot of promotions, of course, advertising. We work with influencers and travel media. In fact, we bring what we call FAM tours or familiarization tours into the community of not only meeting planners, sports rights holders, as well as media, to show them what we have to offer and get them to decide to bring their meeting event or write about us in their publications. We also do promotions like 318 Restaurant Week. We know that one of the top reasons people visit our community is for cuisine. And so to help build our restaurants, we offer 318 Restaurant Week to build their attendance, get their revenues up, and make people more aware of their product. We even take our show on the road sometimes. So a couple of months ago, we went to Denver with the Louisiana Culinary Trails, and we took a chef with us to speak with media and others in the Denver area to encourage visitation and, again, build our culinary offering. One of the ways we track this is through Zardico. Zardico is a research and data company. So as you all do, you carry your cell phone, and that cell phone does some tracking. And so we're able to look not specifically at you, but we're able to see where those people are coming from, where they're going to within our community. And with Visa, we're able to get a good estimate of their spend in our community. So as you can see, we increased our visitation this last year by 3.9%. We increased our visitor spend by 4.1%. And we also redesigned our website this year, and we have been able to increase our website visitors and users by 36%. Another gauge is our advertising component and how well that's drawing visitors. So we look at the return on advertising dollars, so our return on ad spend. So for every dollar we spent on the Mardi Gras campaign, we returned $32 to our community. For every $1 we did on our general advertising leisure campaign, we brought $30 back into our community. So these are estimates from Visa spend in our community. So if you spent cash, you're not included in that, but this gives us a good earmark of our return on investment. Last year, we completed our destination master plan. This is a collaboration in a way to really work together to build a place that's better for us as locals to live in, but also a better place for visitors to come. One of the things our board committed to is we're not just here to do a plan and put it on a shelf. We're going to commit to making sure it's implemented by having someone that every single day they work on developing that plan. And so that our new Vice President of Destination Development is Karen Barnes. And these are some of the main, that was the 6 pillars there, and some of the things we've been able to do to move those forward. Some of the main initiatives going into 2025, of course, litter and blight is one of the things not only do we not like as locals, our visitors don't like to see them. Also, businesses that are looking to move to our community, they don't like to see blight and litter. That also often leads to crime. So we're doing some things to help bring people together, build coalitions, and supply materials to be able to overcome these challenges. We also, of course, work with Keep Bossier Beautiful. They do a phenomenal job, and you as the city have also done a lot of work in developing initiatives to help overcome the litter as well as other safety issues. On the film and entertainment, this was one of a part of the plan was to grow the film and entertainment community. With your help, we've been able to restart the Film and Entertainment Commission with an actual paid person on staff again. We had it back prior to the growth previously, and things had settled down. Our person had retired, and so we're bringing it back, and we're excited about those opportunities. In fact, we've got a couple of films looking at us for next year already. A quick overview of our budget. As many of you, we saw our revenues down a little bit at the first of the year. However, we've been able to generate more interest in the community, and our revenue has actually been up the last 4 months. So we're projecting a slight increase next year with the advent of live casino opening, as well as Chasing Aces, and more things that are coming to our community. We're looking forward to building that growth even more. So we are projecting that slight increase, as well as a balanced budget. And again, President Williams, Council, Mayor, I appreciate y'all allowing me to come, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Brown, I don't really have anything, but I was curious about your thoughts on the change of the Independence Bowl teams. My alma mater, Louisiana Tech, is going to come. How do you see that? Is that impactful?
We will definitely market a little bit differently because we do have a lot of Louisiana Tech supporters in the community as well as nearby. So it does change the demographic and where we market a little bit, but I still think it bodes well for the Independence Bowl because it's about bringing people into the seats, but it's also getting a great viewership on ESPN. And that national coverage that's important to us. So I think that's something that Army is really going to bring, as well as the outside visitors. But with Louisiana Tech, we'll be able to get a lot more of that local support and nearby. Last time we hosted Louisiana Tech, we did have a number of visitors, even from Ruston, that came and spent the night because, hey, how often do you get to go to a bowl game?
Sure.
This is a great one to have in our community.
Oh, it is? Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Council, any other questions for Mrs.
Yeah, I
Lacy?
do. Is there any way you could send us maybe an email of everything that you've got booked in '25, what is being held in Bossier and what is being held in Shreveport?
We sure can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
All right, now we have an update on the Ronald McDonald House in Miss Semino. No, you're not.
Good afternoon to Council President, Council members, Mayor Chandler. Thanks for the opportunity to allow us to come and talk about the Ronald McDonald House project here in Shreveport, Bossier. We are board members of the Ronald McDonald House Charity of Arkansas and North Louisiana. With me today, I have Sandy Seminole, who is Senior Vice President of Business Development for Community Bank of Louisiana. I have Joe Arnold here, President and CEO of Carla Federal Credit Union. And we have our mission director here, Laurie Moore, who lives here in Bossier City. And I am Roy Griggs, retired entrepreneur and capital campaign chair for the Ronald McDonald House project here. We'll have our mission director, Laurie Moore, will come and give information about our projects, and I'll come back in just a little bit. Laurie.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for your time this afternoon. We are so excited to bring Ronald McDonald House to our community. Ronald McDonald House is a home away from home for families with a critically ill child in the Shreveport, in any Shreveport hospital. I did pass out just a little bit of information, so obviously I won't be able to cover all of that in just a couple of minutes, but our contact information is in there if you have any questions after we leave today. But this is going to be a 23,000 square foot home. It's 3 stories with 20 family suites, and so 20 families. And that's the goal of Ronald McDonald House, is to really keep the family unit together so that parents aren't torn between deciding whether they're with their sick child in the hospital or at home with other children and other priorities. So we keep the family unit together. In addition to a safe, warm place for families to lay their heads at night, it's really so much more than that. We have a stocked kitchen and family pantry. We have indoor and outdoor play spaces. It truly is a respite for families away from the hospital. And I'll tell you, as a proud Bossier resident, I had both my children in Bossier, but if either of them had to go to the NICU, they were going to be sent across town. And so I can't imagine recovering from childbirth, driving 40-plus minutes back and forth, and needing to ask for a ride, or so many mothers are spending nights in a chair next to their child, or worse, sleeping in their car in the hospital parking lot. And so I think this is going to be a game changer for the medical community here. And once we have this home, we can do so much programming here and expand our reach well beyond, the Shreveport medical community serves a 200-mile radius, and that includes Bossier Parish. And so we're just really proud to get this house open. The anticipated open is August of next year. We have started construction, and so it is located at 9100 Susan Drive. If you ever find yourself off of Burt Coons, you can see it going up. The steel is going up this week. And so I'll let Roy talk more about the actual campaign. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
The campaign for the house is a $10 million campaign. And as Laurie said, the house is under construction now. And we've had so many donors to get it to the point where we are now. Out of the $10 million, we have raised $8.7 million as of today. And more importantly, City of Shreveport, Kettle Parish has been very instrumental in helping us get to this milestone in this campaign. And so many donors, across Shreveport, Bossier, and surrounding areas have been a part of this campaign. And the interesting thing about this, we have a donor, Fiber Bond, that's in Minden, who has given us a matching grant of $600,000 to the end of this year. Every dollar that we raise from now through the end of the year would be matched dollar for dollar. So we're asking all our friends and neighbors that want to give, what better place to give than to this project here that Laurie talked about. We're not building a house, we're building a home where families can stay together while their sick child is in the hospital. And this home will serve patients from all three of the major hospitals in Shreveport. Although we're on the campus of Willis-Knighton, it is not a Willis-Knighton project. It is a Shreveport-Bossier project that would serve any family within the hospital there. So thank you for your time. Let's come and share a little bit about your package. If there's any question, we'd be happy to try to answer those questions for you at this time. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Greer.
was gonna thank y'all for what y'all do for the community, Shreveport, Bossier. My wife and I bought a room, we donated under my daughter's name, and it'll be there today I die, to help people and how this facility works. It's really good for the family, kids. You wanna be with your family. And when somebody's sick, you gotta help them. And thank you for what y'all do for us. Thank you. Thank you.
And there's also a donation wall that shows everybody that's given. And I've stressed to Tommy, each of y'all, that it would be awful if we didn't see Bossier City on that wall. Because we're gonna have just as many kids from Bossier, children from Bossier as
Yes.
Shreveport. So, knowing each one of y'all, I just wanna say thank y'all for what you do, and thank you for hopefully supporting the Walmart Young.
You're welcome. Thank
I
you
do
very
wanna
much.
share, that every penny we raise stays local. That is unheard of in the nonprofit scope. I'm the one that's physically driving it through the bank. I'm the one, we don't send it up somewhere and then they send us a disbursement. We're in 13 local financial institutions right here in our community. So that's a big deal, that I wanted to share with you guys. So thank you.
Thank y'all for
Thank
doing
you.
what you do.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, council, we need a motion to approve today's agenda. Okay, hold on, I'm sorry. Richard, you come up and just give us a little briefing, on last night?
President Williams, Mr. Mayor, I think what you may be referring to, last week, I went down to the Bond Commission meeting last Thursday, and the Bond Commission voted to place the Charter Commission proposed amendments with the amended restated charter and then the two amendments for the term limits on the mayor and term limits on the council on the March 29th, 2025 ballot. And still awaiting an opinion from the Second Circuit on the other version. So, but
So what happens, Second Circuit Court of Appeal, if they come back and say they want that, the judges want that one on there, there'll be two of them on the ballot? People just have to choose whichever one they want to vote for?
it can be, yeah, but that's what I explained to the bond commission, that if, we couldn't have both on the ballot if they didn't allow that one to proceed, and procedurally, that one was in a posture to be put on the ballot, so they did. But yes, Councilman Hammonds, if the Second Circuit says that it needs to be on a ballot, then I guess it'll depend on, the timing of that. It would be nice to have that opinion sooner than later, but we're waiting.
What is the deadline on that, the 31st of this month?
There's no deadline.
There is no deadline that they have to have a judgment back to us?
No. That's what I explained to you before, is that they sometimes they take a month, sometimes they take many months. It's their own prerogative, so.
Any other questions, council? Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
All right, now, council, we'll take a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Darby, a second by Mr. Montgomery. Any questions, council? Please cast your vote.
David Crockett, 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. I just would like to request that we either get to ask some questions or that I address them right now for the budget part at the end of the meeting. We don't get an opportunity to comment on that. You're short 14 policemen, 11 firemen on that. I don't think anything has ever been discussed in the city council about whether you use bonuses, whether you need to survey the police to find out what it would take to get them to fill those spots. But I think that this is a gaping wound for Bossier City, and I think that anybody who wants to come and use Bossier City, when you listen to what was said at the workshop about how overtasked the police and the firemen are in Bossier City, I believe this needs to be addressed. I hope this body takes that on and adds it to a upcoming agenda, or at least address it at the very end of the meeting. Thank you.
Council, any questions?
Good afternoon, Councilman, Mayor. I'm probably wasting my breath, but I'm requesting that,
Name and address.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Your name and address.
I apologize.
I'm
Cassie Rogers, Bossier City, Louisiana, 71112. I'm probably wasting my breath, but I'm going to ask you guys anyways. I would like for someone in this moment to make a motion to put the people's petition on the agenda today. Is anybody willing to do that?
Mr. Williams, they don't set the agenda. I mean,
Okay. I encourage you, someone, to put the people's petition on the agenda. There were some misleading comments at the bond commission where it was asked when we think we would get the answer back from the Second Circuit Court of Appeal. I called to check on that motion and to see where the opinion lied, and I was told that from December 1st to January 15th, that court is closed. If it does not go on the agenda today, the people's petition will not likely be on the ballot. That's going to require a unanimous vote to put it on the agenda, and then it will have to pass by you guys. I'm asking for a Christmas miracle. Let the people also win. For 2+ years, we have been fighting this battle with you guys. I originally didn't realize it was a battle, but now I see that it's morphed into that. You guys have brought, due to that bond commission meeting, you now have someone who I think mistakenly said this on the record, although I've been mistaken a lot lately, that Senator Bass and Senator Seaball have now come out in favor of your version when they had, in my opinion, on purposely stayed out of it because there wasn't anything that they could do to fight this. They knew it was left up to you. However, y'all aren't gonna be able to control that fallout. And that's a shame, because they are down in Baton Rouge fighting for us up here. And as soon as the people think that they are against the people, there's gonna be fallout from that. It also came out this week that the mayor is also against our version of term limits. However, when the mayor ran on term limits, there was only one version that existed. I ask you now, in this moment, to please place the people's petition on the agenda today, pass it to the bond commission, and let the voters decide. This shouldn't be a fight we're fighting each other on. We are all in this together. We've done hard things before. Thank you.
All right, council, we need a motion to approve today's agenda.
We had a motion from Mr. Darby and a second from Mr. Montgomery.
first and second.
Council, any questions? Please cast your vote.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the minutes of the December 3rd, 2024 meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, council? Please cast your vote.
Public comment?
Oh, any public comment on the minutes? No comments. All right, council, please cast your vote.
Motion carries. Let's see if I get that.
Public hearings, actions on unfinished business. Okay.
The agenda carried, and it wasn't popping up for some reason. And approve the minutes, carried unanimously. Adopt an ordinance creating the competitive position of Chief of Administration of the Bossier City Fire Department pursuant to the Louisiana Revised Statute 33:2481.6, final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, questions from the audience? Comments from the council? Council, please cast your vote.
Motion carries. Adopt an ordinance authorizing Mayor Thomas H. Chandler to enter into the attached amended local services agreement with the parish of Bossier and to execute any documents in furtherance thereof. Final reading.
So moved. Second.
Any comments about this from the audience?
Alice Boyer, 5041 Highway 80, Houghton, Louisiana. I'm wanting to speak about this agreement that y'all are making with Bossier Parish. 149 projects. It is rather mind-blowing, the hypocrisy that is once again displayed by this council. An ordinance for collaborative local services agreements between Bossier City and Bossier Parish. The council has publicly embarrassed itself by utilizing intimidation tactics on the citizens and literally having the marshals escort me out, insisting I don't speak, repeatedly insisting my postal code excludes me from your very own website map shown to the contrary. 2 meetings ago, Mr. Jacobs vehemently insisted I lived in
Ms. Boyer?
Houghton while
Ms.
saying...
Boyer, are you commenting on item number 2?
Yes, I am.
She doesn't set that rule, we do.
I know, it doesn't sound like it.
It is about this, because the agreement includes your agreement for all, but for y'all to work, all of the projects that are listed on here, 149 of them, there are projects, some of these projects are going on right up the road from me. And y'all are passing this ordinance that indicates, it solidifies the fact that your past action to exclude me and others are reprehensible. The passing of this ordinance should eliminate this council's attempts to exclude anyone based on an address. because y'all have your hands, y'all are right up the road from me. By signing this ordinance into passing it, you are solidifying the fact that y'all are involved in all of the projects that are going on right out my back door, my front door. So I think y'all owe us an apology. We have a right to come in here and speak about this stuff, especially when you're right outside my door. But you want to exclude me as if I don't have a right to address y'all. I mean, it's rude. I think y'all owe me an apology for escorting me out of this place by attempting to speak. I think you owe a lot of other people apologies because they have a right to come in here because y'all are right outside their doors.
Thank you, Ms. Boyer. Council, any questions?
Yeah, I think we need Mr. Ray to come up and explain
I
what,
can explain it.
or somebody explain what this is about the projects that we have to, everything going on in the parish of Bossier City, including the city.
Yes, it's a list of projects, some which may come to fruition, some which may not come to fruition, that may, down the road, require a cooperation between the city and the parish. It might be some type of joint funding if it, if it's a project out in the parish, but it still benefits the citizens of Bossier City, or vice versa. It's basically a wish list of certain projects that allows, a gateway for joint cooperative endeavor agreements, memorandums of understanding, projects that may or may not require, should the city council approve in the future, or have approved, some type of cooperation, services, funding, equipment, requests for outside funding like capital outlay, grants, things of that nature. That's simply what it is.
And we do work with the parish on projects, we always have.
Well, that doesn't change my comments about the fact that.
Ma'am,
Mr. Williams.
ma'am, not from the audience. You can get up to the mic.
That does not change the fact that all of you sitting up here have an effect. Just because of my address, y'all have an effect. This agreement shows that y'all have an effect on my area. So I don't think I want to hear that I can't come up here anymore. I don't want to be escorted out when I try to speak about something, or cut off, or sat there and
Ms. Boyd,
disparaged.
Let me say something. If you speak on the item we're on.
This
okay,
is-
Go ahead, but recently that hadn't been the case when you was escorted out. So do you have anything else to say on number 2?
Well, I mean, other people ask to have things on the agenda, but y'all don't sit there and throw them out over it.
There's a way to go about that.
I don't know. It seems like people are coming on and asking to have things added to the agenda. I don't know why that I'm precluded from that.
I'm not gonna argue with, that's not how it works, so.
Obviously, I mean, it is one way for some and not for the others.
Council, any questions or comments?
There's another one, Mr.
Oh, no.
Good afternoon. And thank you so much for that clarification on the list. Ruth Pope Johnson.
Raise the mic, there you go.
There you go. Ruth
Name
Pope
and address,
Johnson.
please.
I'm sorry?
Name and address.
I was doing that. Ruth Pope Johnston, Old Green Acres, 71111 Bossier City. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted, that explanation was very helpful because, and we've had this discussion before in terms of when you put out an agenda, it's supposed to allow the people to see what is encased in that agenda so they can, make decisions or whatnot. In this particular case, it purports to be one item on the agenda that allows for our mayor to enter into a local services agreement with the parish of Bossier. But upon closer inspection, it's actually 149 items. And I understand it's a wish list, and I understand these are carryovers. I looked through that list, and I understand that some of those projects actually go back to, I believe, 2019. But it is problematic to me with that it's not identified for the public. And also another thing that is problematic to me is that this section gives our city attorneys who appear to be leading and representing our city in all of these efforts, which is problematic because no one elected them to do so, blanket authority to negotiate and execute any and all documents in furtherance of those 149 projects, which are highlighted on pages 22 to 23, 27. So that blanket authority specifically states that our city attorneys have the authority to secure land for the projects in whatever means necessary. And since it's not excluded specifically, that at least is a tacit nod to the potential for eminent domain. So along with that, then the question becomes, okay, I understand it's a wish list, I understand it's things that you're looking forward to, but our city is currently in significant debt. Where will the money come from to pay for these projects? And there's, as we said, there's a lot of them. There's no discussion of how the city would plan to do that, and ultimately I understand that they would be brought forth individually and dealt with. But the taxpayers, the ones forgotten, ultimately foot the bill and leave to our children and grandchildren debt that potentially will remain long after we're gone. I haven't lost sight of the fact that if all the money is gone or obligated already, are we setting up our soon-to-be elected new council to fail before they ever take their seats? The city council is responsible for the checkbook of our city. Are we, in essence, hiding it from them? We may as well if there's nothing contained within it. Who is running our city where we have become hostages to the will of a few? That's my 3 minutes.
David Crockett, 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. I understand what Mr. Jacobs is talking about. I think some of the comments that you're hearing right now are coming from the perspective that the people right now don't really trust some of the things that are done behind closed doors before an item comes up for vote on the council. We can throw back a couple of years. There was a monument design that nobody on the council had seen except maybe one councilman. There's a example that you talked about about 3 or 4 meetings ago, Mr. Jacobs, where there was a resolution or an ordinance where it was agreed that you could make arrangements with businesses so you could compensate or figure out how to do transportation on Citizens Bank Drive. No one else knew about that. So when we found a $2.5 million or $2.3 million project to build a couple of thousand feet of road, the people were surprised about it. So the wording bothered me at the very end of this too, and I just don't think this is a very good way to run the railroad. So I'm going to make a suggestion. I think since for the last 3 years, the thing that's been sorely needed in this council and in Bossier City is a strategic plan, something that defines this, what you're doing right now, because this also talks about purchasing of land. Lots of other things that you can take legal action. I'm assuming that you might be able to task the city engineer to start divvying out projects or maybe do some preliminary designs. That costs the city. Right now, there's a distrust of the city council because a lot of the things, we don't want monuments. We don't want roads named for politicians. We don't want favors to be done so that you might be able to get some political will of the people. So basically, I think there's a distrust, and I think that this item should be done better, but it really needs to become the part of a strategic plan. Mayor, I think you need a strategic plan. Then you can hang your hat on something. But I think there's a lot in this meeting later on that's going to be related to that comment. I will just make one more issue. Bossier Parish basically the other day said that they're going to go into a 90-day moratorium on all new residential development. At least from here's what was quoted there. At least from what we understand, there are planned over 4,900 additional homes going to go into North Bossier Corridor, another 3,800 homes going into the Highway 80 east of the corridor. And if we just take the simple math of 2 additional cars per home, we all know that the infrastructure in these areas is taxed. The roads aren't big enough, the water lines aren't sufficient enough, the sewer lines aren't sufficient enough. But what we're finding out in this agenda specifically is a whole lot of money is being spent in Bossier City from the general fund and other places, and it's hurting the city. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, sir.
The
Please.
funding for those projects comes strictly through the city council. If those projects have not been included in the funds appropriated in a previous budget, before the city could enter into any agreement or purchase any land or take any steps forward, then the city council by majority vote has to vote to fund that project. They're under no obligation to fund the project just because it's simply listed in the joint services agreement, and that vote or that decision of the city council is always subject to veto by the mayor. So, I mean, that's simply what it is.
Yeah, and I think you said it, Charles. It's a wish list in the future. It's nothing that we're obligated to right now. Council, any questions? Phyllis, did we get a motion yet?
I have a motion by Mr. Montgomery and a second by Mr. Maggio.
Council, please cast your vote.
Motion carries. There we go. If it stays up too long, it doesn't show the results. Motion carries. Okay. Adopt an ordinance amending ordinance 49 of 2024, appropriating an additional $53,379.62 from the Sewer Capital and Contingency Fund to replace the Northeast Wastewater Treatment Plant generator. Final reading.
So moved.
Second. Any questions or comments from the audience? Council, any questions? Please cast your vote.
Motion carries. Adopt an ordinance declaring the fire safety trailer surplus to the needs of the Bossier City Fire Department and donating same to the East 80 Fire Department. Final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments from the audience? Comments from the council? Please cast your vote.
Motion carries. Adopt an ordinance to approve report of reconciliation and project construction closeout for the Barksdale South 24-inch water main and consolidation project with an increase in project cost of $283,631.61 and adding an additional 7 days in change order number 2. Surplus funding from water sectors programs. Required matching contribution will be supplemented to the Water Capital and Contingency Fund. Final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from the audience? The council? Please cast your vote.
Motion carries. I'm going to have to get them to work on this. Try this again. Motion carries. Adopt an ordinance to declare The completion of Citizens Bank Drive Pump Station project, including change order number 1 in the amount of $48,161.73 and adding an additional 96 days, and to amend ordinance 105 of 2022, leaving a surplus of funding to supplement the 2018 LCDA bond and construction of the Citizens Bank Drive roadway extension project. Final reading.
So moved.
Second. Any questions from the audience? Questions from the council? Please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously. Adopt an ordinance to transfer $3,960.22 from the Diversion Special Revenue Fund to the General Fund. Final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Council, any questions? Any questions from the audience? Council, please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously. Adopt an ordinance to amend the 2025 General Fund City Council operating budget to redress the salary of the current city clerk. Final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from the audience? Questions from the council? Council, please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
New business.
Introduce an ordinance to amend sections 114-4 and 114-32 of the Code of Ordinances of Bossier City, Louisiana, to adjust water and deposit rates in the Public Utilities Department. First reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. President, before we start the debate on this item, can we get Ms. Nottingham to give us just
Hey, Phyllis,
thumbnail?
you turn the volume up?
This ordinance is the result of a rate study that was commissioned by the state because we are a recipient of grant funding. So this was completed from May through October of this year. It was extremely extensive. They did do a lot of research and gathered a lot of information, and the result of that concluded that we needed to increase water rates for fiscal year '25 and an additional increase in fiscal year '26. However, they did not indicate an amount for fiscal year '26, which is why there is a modest increase. We just went with the percentage. And so you can see those rates, and then we currently do not have deposit rates for new customers, and so we established deposits because we find that we have some customers that would rather just skip out on that last bill, because what are they gonna lose if there's no deposit that they are forfeiting?
Is it different from commercial and residential?
The deposit rates we kept the same for both.
They're the same?
Yes, sir.
What's considered a new customer?
We have, it actually details it in here, either a new customer or a customer who had a previous account, and we established if they were in good standing or if they did leave with a balance owed, or if they had any issues with their service or account during their time as a previous customer.
Okay. Thank you.
Council, any other questions?
Yes, sir. So the rate study said that we had, I believe, two options. We could increase this rate, or we could pay back the grant dollars.
Correct. We would have to repay the water sector funds that we received, and we would also be ineligible for future grant funds.
And the $5 million in grant funding, that was the Barksdale Boulevard 24-inch main project, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so if we chose not to raise the rates, the revenues would not be sustainable, and we would no longer be eligible for grant funding to help supplement other projects that we would need.
Correct. It's also a component of our the water grade that we receive annually. So if we do not comply, that will also affect that.
Okay. And the water grade is important as well. Not only do we like to say that's A, water, but businesses that are moving here look for that. That's a key component they look for in economic development. Correct me if I'm wrong, so did you say the state required this as part of the water sector grant?
Correct.
Okay. And so it was the state who picked the company?
Yes.
Okay. And when did we get the report, and how quick did the state want us to act on it?
We got the report, it was on a Wednesday afternoon, less than 2 weeks ago, and we had to give them our intention to move forward or not the following Wednesday by end of business. So we had 1 week to tell them whether we intended to bring this before you in order to pass the ordinance and come into compliance or not. So it was the timing is not ideal, and it's certainly not what we would have chosen. But like I said, this started back in May. We had no idea when the results would be available.
Okay, so the state started in May, didn't give us any inclination of how long it would take. They delivered it to you on a Wednesday and said, here, you got 7 days.
Right.
Figure it out.
Yes.
And so that sounds to me like a fault of the state. They should have a better system in place because this is a big decision.
I completely agree. I think it's, like I said, the timing is not ideal at all.
The major issue, obviously as a customer of Bossier Water, I don't like it because my bills are going to go
Right.
up.
I understand.
But the one issue, as I read through this ordinance that I have, and that would be at the end of the ordinance, the 2% annual increase thereafter. So if I heard you correctly, there was a gap that needs to be filled for 2025, and then another gap for
Right.
2026.
Yes, but
to
they
stay-
did not
To be compliant.
give guidance on what it would be for 2026. So rather than setting that fixed amount like we did here, we did an increase, just a % increase. We felt like that would better suit the needs of the department, given that people, we don't know what the future holds with weather, whether, if we have a very dry summer or if we get a lot of rain, if it stays cool, people will choose to conserve. So we felt like that was the best option for the utility.
And this 2% annual, that's for both inside and outside?
Correct. And for
Customers.
inside, it would equate to about 25 cents.
And what the initial increase for 2025, what estimate have we come up with an average customer would see?
So it's about, I think the increase between the flat rate and the usage is $1.62 per household. And then there is, let me get my notes here. The average customer is going to see about a $6 increase in their monthly bill for their flat rate, with the increase on the flat rate and usage.
Okay. Like I said, the only concern I have is this 2% annual after we do the 2025 and the 2026 increases, and
Well, there is no, that is the increase set for 2026.
2%.
Correct.
But I'm talking about after 2026, continuing that 2% every year thereafter. That's the only issue that I'm going to push on, because when we did some for instance, the Port Waterline project, one of the big selling factors of that was the revenue stability that would give us in the
Right.
future. That project is done, but the port is not ready to start developing yet.
Correct.
So, but from what I understand, they are actively starting to recruit industry and planning their plan out there. And
Yes.
so I'd like to amend this ordinance by doing the 2025 increase and then the 2% in 2026 and having that 2% sunset after 2026. And let's reevaluate where we're at in 2027 and beyond. I think that we don't know, that's too far in the future for us to really predict. And I think that that would give future city councilmen, future mayors, that would give them the benefit of looking at this, and also the partnership that we have at the port, seeing that revenue stability that we're hoping for. And I believe, I voted for that project, I was proud to, that I believe is going to happen with that. So that's going to be a motion that I make, if Mr. Montgomery is willing, since you made the motion on this, to amend this to sunset this 2% in 2027.
What's the timing, what does that do, Phyllis, for us on implementation? You're talking about doing this January 1st of,
This will be effective February 1st of 2025. And so I believe, if I understand correctly, these new rates, and then for fiscal year 2026, so January 1st, 2026, there would be a 2% increase, but it would sunset. That would be the end of that. We would have to evaluate and potentially
I'm
come
good
back
with
before the
that.
council for that.
it gives us plenty of time to get it.
Understood.
I'll second I'll remove my motion and second yours.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, Ms. Sonningham, also, the next item is number 2. So per household, you project $6, but in that next ordinance, we're looking at an adjustment for sanitation rates.
Correct.
So that is also part of the billing.
It is. Yes, sir.
So what is the total? Because you're gonna have an increase there too. So per household, what?
So if you look at the average consumption per household for their water with the flat rate increase and this, then it would be about $18.
Okay. Yeah, and that's my heartburn right there.
I understand.
For people who are already having a hard time meeting the rates as they are today in Bossier. If it's one thing people complain about in Bossier City, in my district, it has been the water rates. I've known that for a long time, and this is going to be a tall glass of water to drink.
Just a couple of things. I would say water rates have remained constant and since 2007. There has not been an increase. And also the budget was presented with the assumption for this $12 increase.
Sure.
And so it is, I understand, again, this is not an easy decision for anybody, and it does make things difficult, but it is unfortunately the cost of doing business.
What's the increase on the sanitation?
$12.
$12.
I have one question. How much money have we lost with everything staying the same since 2007?
One thing that we look at water and sewer together as one utility. The state did not. They only took into consideration water separately. And so that would be, I'm not sure if she has that on the top of her head. But sewer rates have increased. Our sewer rates increased, I think, in 2018. And so there was a pretty significant increase at that time that has helped sustain the entire utility.
Yeah. And I mean, the garbage pickup, it has to go up.
Yes.
I mean, we can't continue to fund a $3 million deficit on garbage pickup. We can't do that.
Right. A portion of that fee is intended for street sweeping and grass cutting, for mosquito control and all of those things. And right now, the fee is only covering the actual curbside trash pickup, so.
Charles, you like anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, Mr. President, if I may, if the city council is so inclined to put a sunset provision in this ordinance, I would suggest a specific date, like 12/31 of 2026, whenever you want that to terminate, so that the ordinance is clear. So
That's fine.
Why don't we just have it to where it's, simple without, in other words, it's X for 2025 and then 2% for 2026, period.
that would
You
be.
know, rather than,
Right.
I'm not trying to
No,
put
that's
thoughts
fine.
into you, but rather than sunset and all, let's be real clear, we're doing this X for 2025 and Y for 2026, period, end of story.
Essentially would accomplish the exact same thing.
So
What
it
I-
it just,
what
that's
I-
what I would suggest.
Yeah.
What I have is a motion to amend ordinance to only do 2025 and 2026, 2% increase, and will not increase an additional 2% at the end of 2026 for further analysis to see where the city stands at that point.
And did you clarify 2025?
Yeah, adopt the rates that
Okay.
are in here.
I missed that.
I can't hear.
I couldn't hear
I can't
it,
hear
so.
anything.
Anyway, you
Yeah,
good?
I'm good with that.
And you didn't have to withdraw your motion because he can make an amendment and then y'all can adopt it as, or introduce it
Okay.
as amended.
Okay, that works.
Whatever works.
Okay.
Thank you, man.
Would you please stay up so I can ask a question too?
Or you can come back up. No public comment?
No, there's public comment.
David Crockett, 653 Domain Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. I live outside Bossier City. I think it's well-known in this body. My rates are about 80% more than the city's. My question to you is, does the state require that that higher percentage be at that level? Or is that just the city's decision to charge people outside the city more? So that may give you, people outside the city are one of these days going to decide if they want to be inside the city or not. I think that would be one thing to consider. I pay $68 last bill for water to Bossier City, Louisiana. My bill probably will be around $78 next year. So, and my second question is, what I didn't really get out of what you presented, and boy, great explanation on all that, is what are some of the factors that go into that? Are some of our water infrastructure, what determines that amount? And why is the state coming after us for that? If it's because we don't have reserves, or, I would think that people would like to know, and I think because we haven't seen any public affairs or public information on this right now, then I think that's another thing that I repeat over and over to this council. We have to get information out to people as soon as you find out about it. Bad news doesn't get good with age. But can you answer that? I don't know if that, I think that's worthwhile. I would like to see my rates not be 80% more than somebody in the city. And I think there are a lot of people in my neighborhood that would agree with that. They've all been talking about it.
That's fine. Ben, if you want to address it, or?
Moving the city, huh?
I would, just point of clarification, outside rates are 1.5 times that of the city. I would also say that the residents that do not live within the city limits but do receive city water and sewer, they don't pay the sanitation fee. They also don't have the ambulance fee, the beautification fee, those things. So this was done because we are the recipient of grant funding. It had nothing to do with any kind of perceived financial instability of the utility, but it was simply because we've received grant funds from the state.
And if I can, just one thing about the grant funds that we receive, the $5 million project that was done down in my district, with that's already been done, we have already brought one whole development that was down there off of outsourced water, outsourced sewer, everything like that, into paying
Yes.
now for water and sewer
We did
with inside
consolidate.
the city limits of Bossier City.
Right.
So they've been annexed in. They were in the parish, they've been annexed in now where they have the police, the fire, everything like that protection, plus the fantastic water and sewer program down
We
there.
actually did not annex them in.
No, I'm sorry, didn't answer them, I'm sorry.
But
That's
they
in-
do.
That's in the
they do get
works,
to-
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
They'd get CD's,
But
water.
also has increased businesses now that are looking to come to South Bossier with the new bridge, everything that is going on down there.
A lot
So,
going on down there.
you know, with this grant money that we get, I mean, it brings a lot to the table.
Right, and then,
And-
like I said, the potential for future grant funding is also significant.
Yes.
You didn't answer my question.
I was gonna finish it for him.
Okay, please do, and I think the issue is that I pay sanitation in my parish sanitation system, so that would be a duplicate if you try to do that, but it doesn't address the fact that if the city is asking, and the city is gonna be charged $10.16, I'm paid $18.80.
Is this time running?
It was, there was a 1 minute and 5, thank you, Mr. Montgomery, are you the president again today?
I have every right, sir.
No, you don't.
ask your
You can,
question.
you can say point of order.
Williams,
Mr.
please.
So anyway, my point is that in the city rate is 10.16. I pay 18.80. That's not just 50%. It's 50% of what the city rate is, but $8.80 over the $10. So, but anyway, hey, I'd love to have an explanation why I'm having to pay so much more. If that's just the city's decision, you can give some people relief. I make enough money, I can pay it. Other people in the parish don't make the money I make.
Mr. Rauschenbach, he's welcome to gather that information. We had those rate studies done years ago. So
Would you like to
it-
get
it-
back with Mr. Crockett? That would be fine, if you'd like to do that.
Just two things. One, the study does not include, the rate increase doesn't include some robust addition in a capital improvement plan. Bossier has a pretty strong capital improvement plan. We spend millions of dollars in capital every year to maintain the assets we have. They've looked at the capital plan, but the increase, to be clear, they want to see about a 15% reserve in our water revenue and to be able to cover our operating costs based on that. So clarifying that. The other bit being, if you are consuming water, say, from a different system, Benton or CBB, our cost to them is gonna be 1.5. They've got costs on their end to, send their water, pay bills, things like that. So anyway, I don't know if that's the case for Mr. Crockett.
City water.
Okay,
Bossier City billing.
very good.
Paying 80% more.
Anyway,
Crockett.
does that help?
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Cassie Rogers, Bossier City, Louisiana, 71112. I'm not sure if this was addressed or not. I just want to make sure, because I know this is going to affect all of us come February 1st. But in the details of the ordinance, where it starts to talk about like customers and who's going to pay what and when and all that, it says all customers of city utilities and services shall comply with the following. Residential customers, first-time and previous customers in good standing, defined as a customer in good standing who has paid their bill in full on time in the last 12-month period of service, must pay a $100 deposit. I saw at the end where it says if your water is shut off, to have it shut back or turned back on, it will require the $100 deposit, but will everybody be required to pay the $100 deposit come February 1st? No, so only if our water is shut off or if we move or something like that. Perfect, thank you, because it's kind of confusing, thanks.
Council, any questions? All right, let's cast your vote. Come up here. There it goes.
Motion carries. And that's for the amendment. And so now you would need to introduce the ordinance as amended. Introduce an ordinance to amend sections 114 and -4 and 114-32 of the Code of Ordinances of Bossier City, Louisiana to adjust water and deposit rates in the Public Utilities Department as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Council, everybody straight on that? All right, please cast your vote.
Audience. Audience.
David Crockett, 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. So I got the answer that I needed. There's not a real good reason that you're charging me $8 more than you are other people in Bossier City. I don't pay CBB water. I don't pay a fee to anybody else that manages their system. So I'm asking you before the next meeting for somebody to consider changing that. Why are you doing that to me? I've said that over and over in this meeting. There's no justifiable reason. You know, sometimes your water's somewhat related to your sewage that you pay, and I don't know how that works with consolidated wastewater, or whatever they're called. But I'm asking you to consider that. There's no justifiable reason. That's one of the reasons that I come here and talk to you guys all the time, and you try to throw me out when I try to speak, or you try to shut me down, or you try to shut her down when she comes up. You can't tell me what I can and cannot say. If I come up and speak on that subject, and when she was speaking about the subject of the agenda, that's her right. That's her First Amendment right. Alice Boyer is a part of the city. I and Alice Boyer, 80% of the city revenue comes from sales tax. And where do you think we shop? I pay my water here. I probably pay more in taxes to Bossier City than 90% of the people. So I do get frustrated. I'm usually a gentleman here. You can give me the moniker of being a turd. You can do whatever you want. But it's not going to stop my right to speak here. Mr. Montgomery can point of order anything he wants, but I don't respond to Mr. Montgomery.
Are you speaking on this ordinance right now? Or are you
Am I
just
speaking where?
Speaking on top of your head?
Oh, I'm speaking on the subject.
Oh.
But you don't have a right to stop me.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't. I have a First Amendment right to speak. If you want to haul me off when I'm speaking on this subject and the way I'm treated, and the way I'm treated in this council, then you'll have another lawsuit.
Just speak on the subject, that's all I'm asking.
What? I mean, were you speaking on the subject when you called me a turd?
I never called you a turd.
Yes, you did. I've got a recording of it. Are you going to lie? Of course, you're
I
not
don't
running for
listen to it.
re-election, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, I just think that this council has bloodied its own nose. Thank you for the right to speak.
He might want to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Did you hear?
I think I know where. I think I know where.
Hold on, Ms. Crockett.
I've got
I'm gonna
16
ask-
seconds, and I think.
have the floor.
No, you don't.
Yes.
Mr.
you
Williams,
left.
will you
left the
please,
podium.
and these people that are commenting from the audience, we have, why don't you read it again, Phyllis, for them? Because obviously, it's hard for them to understand, so let's go ahead and read it again.
I think we know where the turd is. I'll go ahead and sit down.
Thank you.
Phyllis, I'd like it read.
In accordance with Louisiana open meetings laws and the adopted Bossier City Council meeting rules resolution, the city council asks for order and
Your rule may violate the Constitution. You have to agree that that's the case, that you wrote those, you didn't have that run through the Supreme Court. You don't know that. Your rule.
You're done. Sit down now.
I am.
Thank you. God, this is a joke.
Please finish.
the open meetings, council meeting rules resolution, the city council asks for order and decorum at our meetings. Please silence your cell phones. Anyone wishing to address the council on any agenda items may approach and state their names and address for the record and shall be permitted 3 minutes to make their comments on the particular item that's up for discussion with up to 4 speakers per side. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who shall become boisterous while addressing the council shall be forthwith by the President pro tem barred from further audience before the council unless permission to continue be granted by a majority vote of the council. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. No question shall be asked a council person or the mayor except through the meeting chair. All other audience members are asked to observe the meeting quietly. City Council has appointed the city marshals as the sergeant at arms, and they have been instructed to maintain decorum and ask anyone in violation to step out of the meeting.
All right, council, let's vote on item, new business, item number 1, please. Please cast your vote.
Motion carries with a dissent from Mr. Darby. Introduce an ordinance to amend section 94-76 of the Code of Ordinances of Bossier City, Louisiana to adjust sanitation rates.
So moved.
Second.
And we talked about sanitation rates. Councilman, any more questions?
Just real quick, Ms. Nottingham, I know that there were a few places, multifamily units, where we found that only one unit was paying the sanitation rates. Have we adjusted that to all units in the?
That's included in this, yes, where it's based on, previously it was based on the meter, a single meter would pay one single fee, and so that is included in this ordinance.
Thank you.
But I would say that is specific to just the beautification fee.
Okay.
Council, any questions? Any questions from the audience? Council, please cast your vote.
Motion carries with a dissent from Mr. Darby. Introduce an ordinance appropriating $1,455,700 in matching funds from the 2018 LCDA bond for the $2 million American Rescue Plan Act Water Sector Program Phase 2, first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments from the audience?
And I'm sorry for my comment earlier. You called me a jerk, not a turd. David Crockett, 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. The question that I have kind of relates to all three, but I may have another comment on another one, because I think what I was trying to figure out from you, and thank you for explaining, how whether it's based on a reserve and stuff like that. So it sounds like that if our reserve was higher, that we maybe would not be forced into that, is what it sounds like. Is that not correct? But let me ask my questions, because they're going to run me off in a second. The issue that I have is with some money's coming for this water, all these water issues. Some money's coming from LCDA bond fund. Some's coming from the American Rescue Plan Act funds, and then some money to resolve some of the water issues are coming from the general fund. So I guess the question is, if we're taking money out of the general fund that Bossier City needs to do pay raises and all these other things, the question is, and I'll get into this a little bit more when we get into the issue about if you can just address that, because I've got too many issues.
A portion of our revenues are dedicated, they go to the contingency fund for issues that arise, water main breaks, different things like that. So there is a specific percentage that goes to that. So this will also increase those funds as well. With the portion of the revenue will go, the increases will go to that as, to operating and to the contingency funds.
Can I ask a question? Because I think we're muddying. What was Clearwater for me?
I can't hear what you're saying. You should speak into the mic.
Mr. President, can we ask Mr. Hammonds to calm his temperature down? So the rate study did not go into money that we spend on capital projects, did it?
It does talk about, I mean, it talks about some of our projects and future planning, but no, it looks just in general at an operating level.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So these next three ordinances that we're about to vote on, and ordinances similar to them in the past, they weren't considered in
Right.
the rate study.
Right,
We're
and-
talking about chemicals and
Yes.
labor
Yes.
and ongoing general maintenance that we have to do. We're not talking about large capital projects,
Yes, and.
correct?
Electricity.
Electricity,
Is a
utility, yeah.
major-
So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're clear. It's not that not that we're spending money on all these projects and
Right.
that's why rates went up.
Right.
Chemicals have gone up, we just made labor go up at the last meeting and everybody was for it, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Our contingency funds are for those unforeseen, unplanned things that happen during the year, and so that's why.
That's
we have
what I
that
thought. I
separate.
just wanted to
Right.
make sure I was.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're on the same page. Thank you.
Any comments from the audience? Council, please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank y'all for passing that. The citizens of Shady Grove will be ecstatic what that last one is going to do for them down there. Thank y'all.
Introduce an ordinance appropriating $10 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds for the first phase of water treatment facility improvements required for the implementation of nanofiltration. First reading.
So moved. Second.
Council, any
Prep-
questions?
Real quick, Mr. Crockett, I think Ben is prepared to kind of brief us on this, and I'd like to hear that before we get into the comments.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. I've had a chance to visit with y'all to go over some of the minutia in the project. Thought it might be of benefit to share the presentation that I gave y'all here in council chambers. So kind of going back to the beginning of what we're doing, I want to kind of describe what we've got in this slide here. I don't think the laser pointer's working, Phyllis. There it is. So what you see back here, that is those are the City of Bossier's membranes. Those are our water membranes that filter out of Plant 3. This unit right here in front, that is a unit that simulates what we're doing under Plant 3. This is the nano filter pilot. Those are the nano filters right there, much like reverse osmosis. In much of this, we were able to get a grant from the state, a $500,000 grant to help support this study. So going back a little bit in time, you have to go all the way back to 2018, the Sligo water system, which was a bulk water customer of ours. They tested positive for a brain-eating amoeba, Naegleria fowleri. Shortly thereafter, our water down in that area also tested positive for a brain-eating amoeba. We commenced a 60-day chlorine burn. That's the protocol provided by the Louisiana Department of Health. And then shortly thereafter, we went down and actually met with Louisiana Department of Health executives. That was championed by Councilman Montgomery. During that meeting, the directive from LDH was the best practice for amoeba elimination is moving your system from chlorination to chlorination. We started a pretty robust burn to get the system clean. We were amoeba-free by the first part of, that really should be 2019 there. And then moved into the nanofiltration pilot study as a mechanism to get to free chlorine in May of 2020. We've been doing that now for 4 years, and I'm going to kind of go through some of the challenges that we've encountered. That's why you go through a pilot study, so you understand what you're going to be dealing with at full scale. So we've talked a little bit about this. Again, just highlighting the Naegleria fowleri, that amoeba. High organic removal is the objective of the study. And the reason for that is we want to reduce disinfectant byproducts that are created using free chlorine in the system. The main point on here is kind of a, little fancy picture of a membrane, but through this study, we came up with two problems. One was we had a manganese issue in our raw water. The other was what they call biological fouling. So the initial samples you can see here, right here, raw water, these are our organic levels right around 5. So this is total organic content, this is dissolved. And then running through the membranes, you get no detect. So those membranes are removing all the organics. We felt like we had a physical barrier there to do that, and we're moving in a positive direction. This graph is telling you basically that the chlorine residual in our water at the point of entry into the system, all the way through a 14-day test down to, what our chlorine residual is at the end of 14 days, which is 0.5. That's the lowest we can have in chlorine, and that correlates well with some of the modeling we've done that tells us how old our water is in some locations. So DBPs are low right at the beginning, and as our water reacts with the disinfectant, DBPs, disinfectant byproducts, increase. So you can see on here, perhaps my eyes are getting bad, I'm getting old, but you see 40 micrograms per liter here, 29 here. That's half. So the minimum contaminant level or maximum contaminant level is 80 and 60. And through this study, blending with nanofilter water, 75-25, we're able to cut organics in half. So we know we have a good protocol for achieving good disinfectant byproduct residuals using nanofiltration. This is what I'm talking about with the manganese. So you can see in 2023 and 24, we observed in the month of June a spike. You can see manganese levels going from, around 0.15, 0.2, and they spike up. And it took us a while to figure out what was going on. We have pre-treatment protocols in plants 1 and 2. That's a different type of technology that gets rid of some of the organics, and we use some different chemicals there. And then on plant 3, we have a post-polishing process where we use ozone and we use carbon that strips some of these organics out. Those systems don't get the organics down to the level we want, but they've been handling these manganese issues sort of on the side for us. And so we discovered that the intent with nanofiltration was to get away from using carbon and get away from using post-ozonation and implementing this process to kind of control that cost of production. But we learned through this process that we have to have a pre-treatment step, an oxidation step to take care of manganese. So our manganese control strategy, it's hard to kind of explain here, but in plant 3, we introduce ozone. So that's our modern Ferrari plant that we use. We use ozone in the beginning of the kind of our carbon filtration process. We took a stream of that ozone and we injected it into water that's coming into this piece, this unit here, just like that. So we're ozonating the water, we're introducing an oxidant to eliminate that manganese problem. And what we found, this is just to give you an idea, what we found is, and this is kind of a picture, so this is actually pre-filters, that's the manganese that we were collecting. This is manganese that's in solution. This is what happens when it comes out of solution. So it's not harmful to drink, but people don't want their water looking like that, nor do we. So these are things that we're trying to get rid of, and our manganese in surface water is organic by nature, which creates disinfectant byproducts. So here you see the spike right here. This is when we were running 2024. That was that manganese spike coming in. This is what we were able to do with that, introducing that oxidant step. So we know that ozonation, and we went with ozonation because we currently do that at the water plant. I'll get into that a little bit. It made the most sense for deployment in this treatment strategy. What we found after that was we ran into something they call biofouling. So biofouling, this is an actual nanofiltration membrane. It's been split. This is called an autopsy. You get in there, you do an autopsy, but you see this boat, it's a very similar thing that happens. We start to grow organisms on the fabric of these membranes, and over time, it becomes harder and harder and harder to push water through, and they rupture, or your power costs go up, or you're just not producing as much water as you're needing. The control strategy for this is much simpler. We introduced a chlorination step, and that chlorination step, we were able to take, you can see there on June 13th of 2024, this is a high, ATP is a level of organics in the water. We were sitting around 250 pre-chlorine step and dropped that all the way down to 12 post. So that's a common strategy, and it's something that you would see in the deployment of this system. So those are the two challenges that we see and things that we want to make sure are addressed as part of a full-scale nanofiltration project. Full scale is a big, big number. We have been working, myself and the administration, on pursuing grant funds. Current cost to do full scale at our production rate is around around $35 million. We looked at what made sense to get moving forward with the implementation of nanofiltration, getting away from chlorine burns, dialing back our chlorine residual, and just overall making a better quality water. And we've stepped this in 3 phases. So the first phase, the one that's before you today, is to implement an oxidant for manganese control. And that's to replace and renovate Bossier City's existing ozone systems that we have, that are current, our oxidant, that need attention. Those are expensive, very old pieces of infrastructure that really need attention. And in that process, when we're doing those improvements, take a look at making the necessary, component additions to provide ozonated water for Plant 3. So it's fix what we've got, bring what we have, first generation ozone system, into the modern era. We'll use less energy. It's a pretty robust system, and it needs attention. We spend over $100,000 a year just machining parts to fix it. It's just like that. But it's very important to our protocol. Not sure how many of y'all have been out to the facility. That's Bossier's existing ozone system right here. This is plants 1 and 2. So our raw water comes in, it gets ozonated and goes through these traditional sand filters here. This is the new plant, Plant 3. We come through a set basin. We don't have any ozonation here. All that occurs on the backside. And the reason for that is membrane technology does not like that. It doesn't like a lot of chemicals in front of it. It creates premature failure. So doing these steps are usually done, disinfectant or oxidant removal is usually done on the backside of membranes. We're looking at a projected total cost of $10 million. Really, and we truthfully, you can spend a lot of money doing this. We know that the city has American Rescue Plan funds in the order of $10 million. We know that we know what the cost of the existing ozone, to replace the existing ozone infrastructure is. And so our charge to the city is to tailor a project around that ozone system that hits $10 million, no more. And that will include some contingency in there to cover the replacement and rehabilitation of that system. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any more questions y'all may have.
Can I have the floor, Mr. President?
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, sir. All right, so the phase 1 is strictly the ozone, updating our current ozone processes to clear out the manganese. Is that,
So phase one would do two things. So one, we would replace our existing ozone equipment. We need to do that. It's a big capital project. We don't have that capital bandwidth to do that. So we do a good job of keeping your equipment functional, operational, but you can't go and buy these parts anymore. So it's becoming more and more costly. We need to do something with that system. We can't add another system to Plant 3. It wouldn't make sense to do that without taking care of what we already have. And so a big component of this project is to modernize that ozone system that we currently use. Additionally, we will put a basin for Plant 3 and add ozone injection for Plant 3 to get oxidant into the raw water to reduce organics as part of that process. So we're gonna drive organic removal, which will help on taste and odor. It will give us more bandwidth with the water we have. I just can't guarantee that going to that alone is gonna get us to where we're free chlorine completely. That makes sense. So we know that phase one step is gonna have a dramatic improvement in the quality of water, but it's just the first step to get us to the utilization of free chlorine as our primary disinfectant.
how old are these ozone machines?
They're old. I would say north of 30 years old.
Wow, okay. And is that about the average lifespan of them, or depends on?
Typically on equipment like this, you're looking at a 20-year lifespan.
Okay.
Shreveport, ours is a similar vintage to theirs. They just went through a pretty robust project where they replaced theirs. So we're around the same time. We're a little unique, our systems. One, there's not a ton of surface water plants in the state. Most of them are up here in our region. And so ozone is a pretty sophisticated technology that we're fortunate to have. It's not something that's pervasive across the state.
And the manganese issue, is that just where we get the raw water from? Is that where the manganese originates?
A good question. Manganese, the way we see it occur, the best I can describe it is it's seasonal, and when the temperatures of our water get warm, we start to see the reduction of ozone, or the reduction of oxygen in the water. And so that's caused by algae. It gets in the summer, you get algae and other microorganisms that are consuming oxygen that would otherwise be oxidizing these constituents. And so they're getting oxidized out in nature before they get into the system. And as that oxygen level decreases and temperatures go up, we start to see more and more manganese in our water. So it's naturally occurring mineral that's organic in nature on surface water that comes into the plant seasonally.
And so if we were to go full-scale nanofiltration and to a free chlorine system, we need to have this because of the manganese. But even if we don't make it all the way to full nanofiltration, we still have to have this system.
Correct.
So the problem that we're solving with this is we're replacing 30-year-old equipment that needs to be upgraded, and we need it whether we stay on the current filtration system or we go to nanofiltration.
Correct.
So
Basically,
sounds like it sounds like it's a problem that we need to address regardless moving forward, whether we go full nanofiltration or not.
It is, and although it perceptively may not be obvious, we have a really fine group of water technicians out at the water plant.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these things are connected. We have to have buy-in from our staff. They have to understand what we're doing. And this makes the most sense as we move forward as that first step. It's approachable. I also think in the vision and the future of where we're going with our legislative support, we're showing goodwill. We're putting energy and effort into this. The state's very interested in how You know, you can get surface water systems off of chloramine. So we have support. I mean, they gave us a grant, $500,000 grant to continue the pilot. You know, so I envision a time where we're gonna get more support from the state to put this forward. And in my engineering presentation, you're gonna see a little shift today in that. But, you know, our capital plan has, although we don't highlight that, our capital plans have always included a component of grant as part of that. You know, so as much of that as we can get, we want to. These are good initiatives. Bossier City has been bullish on their utility infrastructure. You know, I like to say, and I've communicated this to you, the utility rates in Bossier City aren't much different than many of the places that surround us. But we look what you get for the money. It's like going to a car dealership and you're looking at a Yugo and a Ferrari for the same price. I think it's important to stay ahead of that, to be, you know, a little more advanced in the technology, because every year we're asked to do more and more and more, you know, to protect the community. So it's a, you know, I'm close to it, but it's an important investment in what we're dealing with now and into the future.
I'm done.
Ben, on the price tag, 35 million, what is the probability that we will get grant money?
I don't have a crystal ball. I think strong, but I don't have a crystal ball to know that.
Okay, and secondly, if we get grant money, will there be a stipulation that we have to upgrade because we got that money?
A stipulation to upgrade?
Like we got the money for the water plants already, and so now we have to do these upgrades in order to not have to pay that $5 million back that we got.
Oh, like to do a...
For any part of this system.
I'm trying to understand the question in a way that I can give you a good answer for that.
So if we got grant money, so with attached to that money, would we have to be obligated to do whatever they suggest?
Right, okay, I'm tracking.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you know, I mean, if we want to take, you know, money from the state, there's gonna be stipulations in doing that. The water sector program, I think, is a bit unique, Councilman Darby. Yeah, I've been in this industry a long time, and Bossier's in a, you know, again, perception being, you know, in the eye of the beholder, but the Bossier is in a unique position as it comes to grants and investing in infrastructure and getting support from the state. And outside of how we've been running the utility enterprise fund, which was subsidizing some of those water expenses with sewer revenue, we've had a pretty healthy run. That is not the case throughout the state. And so the water sector program really wasn't geared towards Bossier City per se. We are one of probably a vast majority of the systems that received water sector money, and I know some that turned the money down. Big pots of money. They gave it back. They didn't want any part of raising rates. But the state has realized that these systems that are failing, you know, that there are financial components, there are business components that are built into their not being able to manage that. So the programs we're looking at, Councilman Darby, they'll have stipulations, but I don't, like, they're not gonna give us the money if we're not financially solvent. You know, so there'll be things that they're looking at before those funds come, but I don't think they come with an edict that says you gotta do A, B, C, or D.
Okay.
They're not even gonna entertain giving us the grant funds if we're not taking care of business.
Okay. Thanks.
Council, any more questions?
Thank you.
David Crockett, 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. This is largely related to that, and Ben, I really appreciate your explanation. My first question started when I read what was in here. I understand from what you wrote in here that the manganese is normally treated by chlorine if you're not doing nanofiltration. Is that correct? No. Okay, what do you use? What do other cities? Manganese is a problem that people have all around the country. I've read about that. What would you do if you didn't have nanofiltration?
Are you asking me?
Well, I mean, I'll throw it out because I think that they need the explanation. The problem is, in any type of critical analysis of any problem, you have to think about, what if I didn't do that? You're talking about $35 million. And he just said that the amount of money that you have in reserves and all these other things are things that go into whether you have grants or not. You're taking money from general fund in your next item, and you're going to be using that in your water program too. And I've got a couple of comments about that. But the point, and Ben, I'm not being critical, please don't take me wrong. But the point is, as a city, you've got to look at, what are my three alternatives? What if I do nothing? Then you've got money that you haven't put into it. You've got your rescue funds. You can use it for other things, so you can save your money, so you can do something else. And so later on, you've got more money in reserves, and that helps your financial position so you can do other things. So what's the A, B, and C? We're just seeing a C, and it's $35 million. What's driving doing it now? You've got it under control now, and you corrected a problem with equipment that you have. So I guess the question is, because I am a water rate payer, and for some reason I'm paying extra money that I don't even think there's a good explanation for, so I'm very vested in this. I love my water, but I love my water before you ever started the nanofiltration program. I don't think that bottle of water in there was the color of anybody's water in Bossier City. That's a good example. But it was $500,000 that was a previous grant, I think is what you said, $500,000. It's not, you're not losing that money. The test of the program doesn't mean that you have to go forward with a full program. I just want Bossier City to be a financially sound city so that you can do more, not less. I would throw this out, and I'm not throwing stones at Ben, but the reality is the financial position in the city changed when we also gave Manchac a 30% pay raise for 5 years. That changed our financial position, your financial position. Those are all things that go into reserves and everything else, but thank you for your time. And I just think that somebody needs to be asking that question. That's a first reading. Hopefully we can get the answer before the second reading. What is an A, B, and C alternative where you don't spend $35 million?
Council, any questions?
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay.
Ben, with nanofiltration, do we get rid of the chlorine burn? Yes. We get rid of the chlorine burn that we receive hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of telephone calls. I know I do. People complaining about their water smelling like chlorine, their bodies smelling like chlorine. When are we going to get rid of the chlorine smell? Will they get rid of that and improve our water even more?
Yes.
That's good enough for me. I mean, I understand what everybody is talking about on spending the money and doing this. This is all stuff that we have to do in the city of Bossier if we want to try to attract bigger businesses, more people coming to Bossier. I mean, I've been to other places. I go to Shreveport, I won't even drink the water. I'm on record as saying that, Shreveport, I won't drink your water. I don't even order water when I go to a restaurant in Shreveport, but I'll drink it in Bossier all day long. This is stuff that we have to do here. People talk about, well, you're not getting anything here in Bossier. We stop doing all this, they're not going to come here. We supply water to Barksdale Air Force Base. I want good water going to our men and women out there that protect us day in and day out. They need clean water out there for everything that runs out there. They use a lot of water at Barksdale Air Force Base. So I understand what everybody is talking about, but it's every item that we put up here. If we didn't put anything up here, y'all would say, why aren't you doing anything? But we put stuff up here and we get beat down like dogs. I mean, it's a non-win situation for us here. And it's nothing against anybody out there in the audience, guys, but it's turning this city council into a freaking circus. We're doing what we feel like is best for the city of Bossier. This $10 million is there. If we don't use it, what happens? We got to pay it back. Is that correct? We have to have that money earmarked from the American Rescue Plan, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so if we don't use it, we have to send it back. And I can't think of a better way to do that than to spend that towards the nanofiltration. You know, we had this conversation, I was a skeptic about it years ago on the nanofiltration until I sat down and you explained it to me. It's not gonna happen overnight. It's a $35 million project. But every year, we have talked to the people in Baton Rouge, and, you know, Governor Landry, he would love to see us up here with nanofiltration to see how this works all across the rest of the states, and other states would love to see us have nanofiltration so they can start implementing it. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's something that we have to bite a little piece off every single year until we get the job completed.
And thank you, Councilman Ammons, and I don't want the perception to be, it's like, well, here it is, you know, and it's being shoved down. We've been working on this and communicating with you and working with the administration.
Years.
I mean, I've heard the mayor in several meetings. I mean, you all understand what we're dealing with. I will say it and I will say it again. We are proud to be the stewards of the infrastructure that you have in Bossier, but these things are delicate. They take a lot of care. They take a lot of attention. I go to plenty of places where, people want to know, what is Bossier doing differently? How are they doing it? So I'm close to it. I tell you all that. It's hard for me not to be biased to what we're doing, but believe I'm giving you all the information I have. I'm giving a plan that we've worked with the administration on, and we've vetted all the possible alternatives, if you will, as to what would be good and what wouldn't. And in that presentation, that is Bossier water. That's exactly what happens when manganese precipitates out. And we're not talking about a $35 million project. We're talking about a $10 million project, the vast majority of which is to take care of assets we already have. Thank you.
So that's what, I'm glad you said that, Ben, because I was about to chime back in. We've been using ozone for 30 years currently. This is just replacing and upgrading what we currently are using. Even if we never go nanofiltration, we still have to have this ozone machine.
Pay for what you get.
Yes, ma'am. Just state your name and address, please.
Ruth Pope Johnston, Bossier City, 71111. Not a statement, really a question, and that is, Councilman Hammonds, we never want y'all to feel that way. I mean, we appreciate everything that you do for us. But the question that I have, and maybe I'll ask it through you, I'm not really sure how to do that. I was wondering if any of Ben's other client municipalities, the company's client municipalities, have y'all dealt with anyone that's implemented this system? I guess you have to ask him that. I'm not sure how that goes.
He's the professional.
A great question, of course. It's unique. Nanofiltration is not unique in water treatment. They're using it everywhere. Believe it or not, the United States is behind. You see it more in our southern states that have salt creep, us being one of those. So it takes chlorides out of the water. That's reverse osmosis. It's very common. But it's in those places where nanofiltration or reverse osmosis is the only way that they can get the salt out of their water so customers consume it. The cost of that water is pretty expensive. It's very power hungry and things like that. So, if it can remove salt, it'll remove organics. So it's used. We are members of the Membrane Institute, and we go to conferences and we study this. But what we're trying to do in Bossier City is uniquely different than those systems. It's not uncommon. Every membrane system has to be piloted. But this is why you run into challenges, you start putting the water through the membrane, you think, God, we got it, this is gonna take care of it. But it wouldn't be responsible to commission a huge investment without understanding what that looks like full scale, so that's what we're
But
doing.
you said something that's really interesting to me, and that is, and I think I'm understanding that for the state of Louisiana, this would pretty much be a first, or one of the first, Ben?
It would definitely be the first system on nanofiltration for surface water treatment in the
Okay.
state of Louisiana.
All right. Can we monetize the fact that we would be a pilot?
Explain a little bit.
Well, I mean, is there any advantage if we're gonna be the pilot for this, that kind of sets the stage for other cities potentially in Louisiana? Is there any advantage to being that pilot
There are,
financially?
yeah, I think for Bossier, no, I don't think you go at this to come to some financial gain from it. It's predominantly designed for our customers, our constituents, to have the finest water that they can consume. If you look at industries are having to, they'll get into finer treatment as secondary, but it's really targeting the challenges we have on surface water treatment. So you gotta go back to the brain-eating amoeba. I'm not saying that to over-sensationalize it, but the state of Louisiana's had 2 confirmed deaths
Right.
from drinking water. And it's the only state in the country that has a mandate like we do. Other states are gonna follow.
Right.
You get Texas that does this, they're gonna have
Yeah.
harder
Yeah, not to
guidelines and stuff.
belabor, obviously, that's yours, but just to say, I mean, normally, in normal business practice, we're gonna go through the frustration of being first, and people will benefit from that to follow. Normally, there's something that you could look at with that, so, just
And
a
we're-
suggestion.
The cost of doing this is a big, big factor.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Chris, are you ready to vote now?
Yes, sir.
Council, please cast your vote.
Yep.
Did not for me. There it is.
Mr. Williams, did yours pop up?
Coming up.
Motion carries unanimously. Introduce an ordinance appropriating $4,500,000 in funds from the general fund for the South Bossier Water Booster Pump Station Project. First reading.
So moved.
Second.
Council, any questions? Any questions? Go ahead.
I do. I know, Mr. Free.
Do you?
I got somewhere to be too. My only concern with this one is the funding mechanism of it, coming out of the general fund, especially since we're gonna be using that as kind of a crutch if needed, with the impending pay raises going in for next year. And so, would there be any appetite to amend this to take the funding from the, half from the Riverboat Gaming Trust Fund and the other half from the Public Safety Health Trust Fund? The interest that we generate off of those, use that as a funding mechanism instead of the.
The port is reimbursing 50% of this.
Right.
Of the cost of this, while they still have the money left over from the last water
But
line project.
they're only replacing 50% of it, so we're still on the hook for roughly 2.25
$2.5
mil.
billion.
And so.
But it's an intercompany receivable, or do you know that? In other words, the water fund will pay that back.
Yeah,
upon- So
I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off.
it's just an intergovernmental fund. The money's sitting there, and it can be utilized right now, and it'll be paid back in the future. Let me just give you my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think, and this has been something that something sacred, that you just don't go touch that 48 million. It's what we use We used to call it the rainy day fund. At one time, when the budget was $50 million, we used to proclaim that we could operate this city with zero revenue for a year. And what I've seen in the past, not just this governmental body, but most governmental bodies, once you tap in to those funds that are, quote, sacred, now you've unlocked the door. And it's easy to go get more, and then before you know it, it's gone. That's just what I've seen and witnessed.
Right.
I'm perfectly comfortable, again, with borrowing the $2.25 million from the general fund, and at some point, paying that back from the stream of water revenue that we'll receive from the port.
Okay. I think my only concern that I had when I was talking this through is calculating it, because we already have the split, the cooperative endeavor agreement with the port on the water revenues, where we split them after we hit 3 million gallons a day or whatever it is. I was just, the accounting of it just seemed like it was going to be confusing to me. How do we ensure that 2.25 million makes it back into?
Well, that's something that Angela will accomplish. I wouldn't confuse what is going on at the port. We know what we're gonna make.
Right.
Up to a certain point, we have that scheduled, right? So you can, I mean, this will be for a future council to decide, but you could do 50 cents on every dollar generated from the port. And I'm talking about net now, not what's going on behind, the scenes with the port. It's what we're making off selling water to the port. And you dedicate, through Angela, you can do it through an ordinance if you want, but you just allocate 50 cents or 25 cents, whatever that is, per dollar until you pay the 2.25 million.
Okay.
The money's there and available. If you in fact got into a problem with the general fund, that's when, this is just my thought, I would go then to the public trust fund or riverboat and then put it back in the case of a necessity. Right now, the general fund is extremely flush, you know that.
Right.
And the money's readily available. We're really not earning a lot of interest on that. I mean, essentially, it's a checking account.
Right.
Whereas we're earning good interest on that public trust fund that you were speaking of earlier. Just my thoughts.
I just wanted to throw it out there and ask, because that's just a concern. Do we have an idea of how long, or maybe Angela, I don't know, how long it would take it to pay back the 2.25?
Well, what's the schedule? Remember I asked, I don't mean.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
But what was the schedule that we had when we were having the meeting? Remember I said, because I knew this was gonna come up, and that one, I'm getting older, I can't remember that one in my head, so.
I failed to bring it with me, so I don't have that with me today.
You're getting older?
So, is it?
Was it $1 million per million gallons, or?
So, yeah, to be super conservative, I did just 1 million gallons a day, and if we're doing 2.25 million instead of the 5 million, approximately 4.5 years. Depending on how much you designate, if you do 25 cents or 50 cents.
Or you can do it all. I mean, that's something y'all can decide, right?
Right, okay.
I mean, you need to be looking at the financial statements of the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. Are we getting feedback?
It's buzzing
Too
real
loud now. But, so you decide, right? And if the general fund needs it, and then take the money from the water fund and go ahead and pay it back quicker. If the water and sewer fund, or the water fund in this case, needs the money and the general fund is flush, then you can do 25 cents. I mean, that's something y'all can decide.
And the beauty of this, as I see it, is no interest.
Yeah.
And just to kind of ease Chris, I know we all keep saying the port. This water line goes a whole lot more places than just the port. What, you know, as me and Ben have talked, we're seeing a lot of interest in South Bossier on the 71 corridor of people wanting to come in down there now, businesses, homes, stuff like that, because of that water line is there. So I think that we're gonna start making money off of that water line long before, you know, we turn it onto the port, or if something happens, it'll be turned onto the port a whole lot sooner.
Thank you for bringing that up, Councilman Hammonds. And we talked about this. So just like the water plant, this administration, the council has been very bullish on water distribution infrastructure. So it's important to kind of go back. Before my time, there was a plan put together to deliver water from the water plant north and south. And for the last decade, we have completed major, very difficult projects after project after project, all with the, you know, foresight of delivering water both north and south. I can promise you that the growth going on in North Bossier Parish, north of the city, we're ready for that. The lines are big enough, we've got enough supply, we're ready for that. The growth going south, we've been investing. That South Bossier, what we call Barksdale South Bossier Water Main, that project was actually commissioned as part of the Neglary-Fowleri component because it was an old ductile iron pipe that has it has a lot of texture on the inside of that pipe that grows harmful bacteria. So that was all part of that plan. This booster station, it's the South Bossier Water Booster Station. It's taking our, capacity from the plant with a strategic plan to be pushing that water north and south. So it's not just a booster station. We're actually enlarging water lines all the way from Walker Place Boulevard, coming down to Jimmy Davis Highway and over and close to the elevated storage tank there in a booster station. This is all part of that plan. These aren't just, we're not throwing things on a map. This makes sense. We have an opportunity with the port to share in that cost, and so it seemed appropriate to bring it before the council to get some consensus on moving the project forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan, thank you for what you do for Bossier City.
It's my delight.
I've been in meetings with him. He is the best.
Mr. Bossier boy.
Yeah.
Council, any more questions?
Public comment.
Public comment? Oh, yeah. I was trying to forget.
David Crockett, 653 Domain Drive, and I'm just going to make a real quick comment. I appreciate what you said earlier, Mr. Councilman Hammonds. I'm not trying to beat this up, but I don't think the people out here understand, and I really appreciate what y'all have brought in answering these questions in that level of detail makes a difference, because we don't have a press that comes and answers or asks these questions. These are big programs, and this is big money to the people in Bossier City to see you spend it. So I really appreciate it. And I know it's painful to stay here this long, but I would just want to make one more comment, which is what I've said for 2.5 years, is that without debt service, none of these would be problems. But that's what's putting a crunch on whether you can get pay raises. That's what's driving a lot of these issues, and you've got that problem for the next 13 years. It's great to be in a reserve position, like Mr. Montgomery said. The city has done well. I'm very proud of this city, but I don't like having $32 million in principal and interest. But I appreciate the chance to comment, and I really appreciate what you guys have done today to explain.
I gotta say something. Sorry, I know y'all are trying to get out of here, but.
Can we save it for the engineering report?
No.
Please.
We operate, when I started operating Bossier's public utility, had the honor and privilege to do that, our costs have gone up. But we started around, this is pure operating, at around 10 million. There are systems identical to the size of Bossier that spend 3 to 4 times that, not on debt service, just to operate.
Any comments on that?
No, I mean, we could sit here all night and talk about the financial stability of Bossier City and how we compare to entities across the Gulf states and the Gulf South. And again, I said it before, grandfather said you can't argue with ignorance. So it's unfortunate that we sit here and listen, to comment that has no basis or fact whatsoever relative to our financial position. And I agree wholeheartedly with you, Ben.
Council? Please cast your
Let's
vote.
cast our vote. Please.
Motion carries unanimously. Introduce an ordinance to amend the 2024 sewer fund budget, first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments from the audience? Comments from the council?
Just one thing, Mr. President.
Okay.
Is this ordinance remotely related to item 1 or 2? Is it?
No.
Okay.
No, it is short and sweet as I can do it. It's directly related to operating costs, so it's to pay our power bill. What we projected in 2024 versus what our actual power consumption is, we were off by a little bit here towards the end of the year.
Okay.
I gotta commend the finance department. In prior years, before we had our system, it's not that the public utility, some areas are doing better than others, but the intent is to have each of these divisions operating on their own precise budgets. And so that's why you're seeing these budget amendments that come through here. It's just more transparency and visibility on what's going on in there.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Ben. Any other questions, council? Please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously. Introduce an ordinance to amend the Bossier City Code of Ordinances to add section 98-6 to chapter 98 and provide for the ceremonial naming of streets, first reading.
So move.
Second.
Any comments from the audience?
Cassie Rogers, Bossier City, Louisiana, 71112. I actually have some questions on this. I was reading this, and I think it's a great idea. However, it is my impression that we are going to be putting name toppers of dead people who've been dead for more than 2 years on top of streets that are already confusing, like Ala Capri Casino turned into Diamond Jacks Drive, turned into Live Boulevard, Old Benton turned into Walter O'Bigby and Old Mendon, but then we're gonna put somebody's name who someone whose name who no one else probably knows and has been 2 years removed from this earth. And what's funding this?
I don't know, where did this come from?
There's no funding. This
Then who's gonna
item-
pay for the name toppers?
Yeah, the persons who petition the city to do this has to pay the funds to get it installed. If there's.
Can you show me in
if-
this ordinance
if
where it
there's
says
any
that?
funds. Ms. Nottingham is gone, I think. Everybody's gone. Oh, Commissioner Ray is here. Because we did do the research before we tried to do this.
The question arose, and Ms. Nottingham and Mr. Darby and I and Mr. Jacobs had discussed this, and there was a question about how the city could do something like this. And we modeled this after the way we found it in other cities. But what we decided to do with this draft, rather than having some elaborate application process, we just put the decision that it would be a council, majority council decision to do this or not do this. And there's nothing in there that the cost would be borne by the party, but that's what we've discussed. There would be some process where someone would ask their member of the council or the mayor to put this forth, and that would be an agreement between them and the party, because it's not just a topper. I don't think that there was any decision made about where to put it. It would probably be better to have just a sign, kind of like the state does, like out there where, on 220, where it's the Johnny White Memorial Highway, or,
It says,
What-
I know
the
about the
term-
topper.
dead,
the
it says
term
a topper,
is
and then it,
used.
I'm sorry?
The term topper is used.
right, but I don't think
It's
that's,
topper in here.
it is, but that's an option.
Ceremonial street names shall be in the form of a sign topper, which is a street metal sign that is placed on top of the standards. City street sign identification shall be adhere to the following specifications, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's pretty, I understood that part, but I didn't understand where the funding was gonna be coming from and what are gonna be the minimum requirement. I mean, I saw the minimum requirements, but I don't think this is a good idea because nepotism could come into play here. If y'all are the ones that are deciding what ceremonial street names are gonna be for every street in the city, I don't think this is a good idea.
Nepotism can't come into play because the council has to vote for that petitioner. When they come before the council, the mayor doesn't make the decision, it has to be a council decision.
Right.
A majority council decision.
Majority, yes. And they have to meet stipulations too. Their relative, whoever it may be, has to meet those.
It just says 10-year minimum,
Well, it has also to do with, their contribution
Community
to
service.
the community. So. if
right,
they
but who's
don't- if
gonna
they don't-
decide what's better, what's more or less?
Once they come and make
Who's-
their petition to the council, so we're gonna
That's-
know if they reach the benchmark for that. But the council is going to vote on it. We appreciate your input, and we may need to revise it.
I would also like, thank you. I would
at
also
one
like
point.
to point out the fact that we already have issues. Well, we already do this. We already rename roads all the time. We already redo this for politicians that are no longer with us.
We don't do this in Bossier. Bossier City doesn't have,
I know we don't have this ceremonial, but we
Yes.
already do this to our streets. And I understand the point of it, but I don't know who's gonna, like, what I don't like about this in particular is the fact that Barksdale Boulevard is now gonna be called something else.
no, it's not
If-
gonna change
If,
at all.
it's not gonna change on the postal service, but we already
It's not gonna even
call.
be in Google. It's not gonna come up on a map.
It's gonna, when a Barksdale airman says what street, I don't know, the street sign said X and X.
No, it's not gonna do that. That person name, whoever he or she may be, is just going to be at the top or on the side or somewhere, almost like a landmark. It's not going to be,
It's not gonna be a full street
no,
name
it's not.
change?
It's gonna be
a
on
name
top of the
change.
street name sign, is what it says in
It's
here.
not gonna cause a person to say, well, where do you live? On Anderson Island. Anderson Island is where you live, so
Mm-hmm.
if there's another sign on that, structure, it's not gonna confuse anybody,
I don't
because
think
it's
we're-
not gonna be a street.
I don't think
sign.
I think that's apples and oranges, but I digress. I think that we already have confusion with what our street names are. We're constantly changing them to other things
When
when we
have
can
we
just
done
keep
that?
them the same. Yes, we have. Yes, sir, we have. We've
When have
recently
we done that?
changed
When have we-
multiple parts of Bossier City streets from Walter O. Bigby. And now Old Benton Road is now called Walter O. Bigby, all these things. So when an airman comes into town and he's here just for leadership school, and you ask him, where are you gonna go? He's gonna say, I don't know. It's
That's
either Cassie Boulevard or whichever, because they're gonna be on top of each other. That's
Yeah,
exactly what this ordinance
That's
says.
that's a true name change. This is not a name change.
Thank you.
It's
Mr.
gonna appear to be a name change on the
You
street
said it
that
was a
we are
name
going
change, now you're
to.
saying it's appear to be one. It's not a name change.
The person looking at the sign is gonna have two different names. It's gonna be a name change
No,
for
it's-
anyone,
it's
or
not-
we're gonna
it's
call
not a
it
name
something
change.
else. This is confusion, but that's what you guys are good at, so thank you.
Council, any questions? Please cast your vote.
Motion carries with a against vote from Mr. Hammonds. Approve parade permit fee waiver for the 2024 Faith and Freedom Parade, November 3rd, it should be 2024.
So moved. Second.
Any questions from the audience? Questions from the council? Council, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously. Approve parade permit fee waiver for Plantation Park Elementary Christmas Parade, December 18th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Questions from the council, from the audience? Any council, any questions? Please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously. The monthly engineering report, engineering department.
I think they already did it.
Thank you, Ben.
It is very few slides. I
Very
will have
few
to say
slides.
that. Give me a second.
Might close the store.
Just jumping in, you guys normally see this, you notice that there's 23 million in ongoing design and construction projects. That's dropped significantly due to the carriageway. 7 million currently under construction. We've transitioned a bunch of projects out and we're bringing a bunch of projects on, so I don't have any Gucci pictures for you because we don't have anything under construction yet. We're in the contract phase. But I wanted to talk about Bossier City's grant efforts. We are currently working on grant projects that total over $7 million. This is money that has come from elsewhere, not city capital, $7 million. I'm gonna do a little better job of communicating that. This isn't new news. Some of these are, they were capital 2025 FP&C grants, but there's others on here, TAP project, DEQ. Amanda's been really, and her staff have been great to work with here, so credit where credit's due. We have a couple of grants that are pending. We think the one at Shed Road from Airline, that's a Safe Routes to Public Places grant. We feel like another $500,000's coming on that. There's a big grant that we're working on for improved pedestrian facilities between Hilton Drive and Northside Drive. I put the Barksdale South water line on there. That's a $5 million grant that's in hand, but right now you're looking at over 15 million, nearly $16 million in funding that we're working on that is money that is from other sources than the constituents here in Bossier City. Albeit we all pay these taxes, that's what's come back to the city. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Ben.
More to come in the new year. We'll reshuffle that deck, but I thought it was germane to the conversation today. Any questions?
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Ben, thanks for all your talking today, man. Council, any questions? Being in the, oh, one
Yep.
more. Who?
Ms. Williamson, Finance Director, monthly financial report.
Oh, I'm sorry, Angela. I was trying to rush you.
I'll try to make it quick.
Stomach's growling.
Yeah, me too. Good afternoon, council, Mayor Chandler. You have before you the financials for the month ended November 30th, 2024. Page 1 is revenue by fund. City is currently 21% over budget. The majority of the increase in hotel motel tax fund revenue is due to the sales tax dedication check from the state received in November 2024 and was received in October in 2023. The majority of the increase in fire improvements to operation fund and sales tax capital fund revenue is due to an increase in sales tax compared to November 2023. The majority of the decrease in Parkway Capital Fund revenue is due to an increase in sales tax compared to November 2023, combined with a decrease due to a reimbursement from the state for a Highway 71 lighting project received in November 2023. The majority of the decrease in Riverboat Capital Fund revenue is due to decrease in gaming revenue compared to November 2023. The majority of the increase in sales tax fund revenue is due to a $2.1 million in online collections for October that were delayed and received after month end. If these payments are excluded, there's a decrease of $259,000 or 2%. The majority of the decrease in Riverboat Gaming Trust Fund revenue is due to a decrease in unrealized gain compared to November 2023. Page 2 is expenses by fund. The city is currently 8% under budget. The majority of the increase in general fund expenditures is related to payroll. There were 3 payrolls in November 2024 and 2 payrolls in November 2023. Page 3 is sales tax comparative report. Sales tax revenue is up 17.1% compared to November 2023. Approximately $951,000 is due to the delayed online payments from October. If these payments are excluded, there's a decrease of $37,000 or 0.7%. Page 4 is the manning report. Full-time employees are 3 more than last month and 47 under budget. Part-time are 2 less than last month and 7 under budget. Page 5 is water and sewer utility report. Net operating income for November has decreased 43% compared to prior year. Current year-to-date income has decreased 18% and is 33% over budget. On a 12-month basis, net operating income is down 11%. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Any questions, Council? Mayor, you got anything today?
Yeah, it's my turn
I
now,
look at
guys.
you,
I mean, I've
man.
been here waiting on y'all all day long, and that's my turn.
I know your stomach's
I
growling.
mean, I know we're not gonna have another meeting before Christmas, so I just wanna say Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank y'all.
Merry Christmas,
You
everybody.
adjourn. Hey, Cassie?